there's also a lot, if you're wondering why the Squad didn't get criticized more, or why they're able to extract more out of their time and control the House. And this is one of my big problems with cable news and the polarized news environment. There's no appetite as Democrats really of any form at MSNBC. As everybody kind of goes into their own corner, there's no appetite to criticize them. So that is the one place where we should have a full-throated debate about some of these topics, right? And have the politicians on, the representatives on, who push certain policies, or have experts on who needs policies to talk about it. They never want to seem like they're criticizing a Democrat. So they're going to shy away from that. So where is that conversation going to happen? It just doesn't. And again, it's because they're trying to appease the audience, and they feel like the audience is going to turn away if you're being somewhat negative about Democrats or on MSNBC. And so they just kind of scast that and turn their focus instead onto, whatever Matt Gaetz might have said that day, or Ted Cruz. It's easier to pick on the evil than to dig down, have a real substantive conversation. These people may not be doing the right things for the right or wrong reasons, and they don't want to get into that. They want to offend their audience that way.
Yeah, that's what's so frustrating to me, is that supposed news shows are teams. They're on teams. This is ridiculous to me. Like the fact that the news is catered to what the audience wants. Like I'm thinking of like Edward R. Murrow and Walter Cronkite, and I went to J school. Like I thought, and this is what people consider news. I feel like the news flash people is that if the news is catering to what makes you feel good, it ain't news. That should be like a pretty eye-opening thing. Like this is ridiculous to me.
It is, and the thing is, there was a study during the election in 2020, and the results came out last year. They sat a group of hardened Fox viewers in front. They had them watch CNN for a month, like a significant number of hours of CNN throughout the month. And I think it was either August or September, or might have overlapped both months. In 2020. So there was a lot of coverage of Donald Trump. There was a lot of coverage of Biden. And through that period, these people who you think wouldn't change their mind about Joe Biden or about Donald Trump, their opinions changed statistically significantly through that month. So they were less harsh on Joe Biden and more harsh on Donald Trump by the end of that month. And so people can digest information coming at them. They aren't just pre-programmed to be conservative or liberal, whatever that means in these days. But and that again is another threat of the media environment where we are. It's, again, for me especially, that's driven by financial incentives. It just makes things worse. We would probably have this problem, you didn't have the financial incentives at play, but that just makes it that much worse. Yeah, because people's both contingent on retaining viewers. Yeah. So
there's no independent news.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head, which again just comes down to money, like anything.
The news isn't supposed to be for profit.
Well, right? No, it's not. Again, people want to forget that you had Reagan repeal the Fairness Doctrine in '87, and then of course Clinton give you the Telecom Act in '96, and that's the end. That's it. I mean, the Fairness Doctrine is repealed, and lo and behold, almost immediately you have Rush Limbaugh. The Telecom Act is passed, and then immediately You have MSNBC and Fox News immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's just pretty clear. And then you think about in 1996, we had about, I think, 50 to 55 different media companies scattered throughout the United States. Today, you have 5. So that's a problem.
That's horrifying, by the way. Like, that's the kind of stuff that keeps me up at night. Like, that is the kind of thing that's extremely scary.
And this is the whole thing when people say, okay, boomer, and they talk about, previous generations basically just sitting on their ass and letting this happen in real time because they knew what was happening. They knew that this was happening, and they decided, well, if it's good for my side, then it's good enough, and I'm not going to say anything. And now you're seeing at least one, if not 2 generations who are living through it at the moment, who are scared to death. They don't know what's coming tomorrow. And it isn't just about the environment. It's the fact that their, educational prospects are not what they used to be. We don't have tuition-free trade schools in the United States, much less public college, which we should have. And then, of course, you have people that are so thoroughly engulfed in distractions, especially on social media, that their ability to focus is not the same, or at least not in a way that it should be. And cognitive development, I worry about kids who get cell phones at 7, 8 years old and the type of effects that's going to have on their brain and the way that they're going to be able to function in the real world. And, again, there's reasons for the societal collapse. It's not hard to see it. And the worst part about it is that on both sides, but I blame the Democratic side more than the Republican side for this reason. The Republican side, what you're getting with the Tucker Carlsons and the Sean Hannitys of the world. They're for the Chamber of Commerce. They are for, a libertarian style economy in the sense that it's kill or be killed, make it your way. You have you have a movement that's building on the right, thank goodness, which is a good thing, of, we are dead set against monopolies. And you're seeing that fight happening more and more where they really do believe in the small business owner and the independent entrepreneur. That's great. But that's not changing the fact that you have the consolidation of power amongst corporate special interests, which run our government today. And there are people on the Democratic side who try to pretend like they're not as guilty as the Republicans are. They are just as guilty, if not more so, because liberals tend to claim that they're the smartest people in the room. And I can't tell you how many liberals I talk to, and they're the dumbest person in the room. You may read well, but you can't read a room or the street. And that's a big problem. You may read good. But that is a big problem. And they are the ones who are going to be the hardest liners for that change. And I do believe that one of the biggest, if not the biggest reason that that's the case, is because they run all of the major cities that control the media. Whether it is New York, Washington, D.C., San Francisco, or Los Angeles, they are heavily invested in the neoliberal establishment. And as a result of that, the skewered opinion of the real world, especially in parts of Arizona where you are, which think nothing like the way people think in D.C. and New York or even L.A., that's a big problem. And I think that is causing an immense divide in this nation. And that's not, I really don't see an end in sight. I think it's just getting worse by the day. Our focus is labor. That's what we're focused on. And I think that's the only way we're going to save this nation. That's my opinion. How do you see it as we wind down the conversation?
That was a very big thing to say to get to that.
Gee, thanks a lot.
What do I think about labor? Or I will say, in terms of Democrats being on board with the system as it is, the status quo, there's no question. Like, why isn't this, something that's debated on, the debate stage, the state of our media, which is essential to our democracy? I feel like everybody knows what the problem is. And I know, I've talked to hundreds of people over the last 2 years, mostly journalists, but academics and people invested and people who have worked in politics. They know exactly what the problem is, but they aren't putting this out as a policy discussion because I think they know how to use the system as it is to their advantage. And so why change it? There are other things that they feel like they can focus on, but climate change is not going to be addressed until the media covers it appropriately. And that's going to take a little bit of creative thinking, to come up with a better, programming that is interesting to people and keeps their attention. It takes a little more creativity than just sending a couple of talking heads to the studio. And I think but that format is profitable. And so that's why there's no incentive to change that from the corporate side. And from the political side, no, there's no incentive to change it because they know how to work it. They know, if Nancy Pelosi can, go into a meeting with Donald Trump and know that it's going to be something chaotic that is going to, lead the newscasts that night, whatever that might end up being, she can then spin that story to her favor. And that's probably not a great example, but that is what is happening. And I've been in meetings where U.S. senators have said, I know, to the president of the network, this is what is driving your decisions. And that person was a presidential candidate at the time and knew that he was not getting coverage because of it wasn't rate well. And they all sat around that table nodding head like, yes, that's that's right. And no anger. There's no pushback against that. I don't understand why people are so complacent with this, knowing what's at stake. And so I can't agree with you any more on that front. I mean, this is if anybody was going to pick that mantle, you would think that it would be the Democrats, and they haven't done it.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.